Howdy, my name is Nonat and my hair has a mind of its own. If you're watching this video, you might be new to Pathfinder 2nd Edition or know somebody who is, and I wanted to make this video because it really hasn't been made yet and it feels important. Today I'm going to be going over the entire Pathfinder 2e character sheet and explaining every single place you can write something, why it's there, and what it does. This will almost work as a very hyper basic introduction to the system. So if you're new yourself or you have some newer players who might want a taste of what they'll look like in the game, this is a great video to send them. I'm going to be going over everything, giving like a one-sentence description of what it applies to, but I'm not going to be going so deep that I'll be explaining the entire game itself, just the player character sheet. So, with that all set up, watch out, here comes an ad! For about the last year and a half, I've pretty much completely switched over to using Opera GX instead of something like Google Chrome. It's a lot less resource heavy and has some really cool features designed with the user in mind. Using their GX profile settings, you can set up Opera GX to function exactly how you want it to, with things like a streaming configuration and even a potato config if you have a weaker PC. You can also integrate a bunch of social media right into the sidebar of Opera GX. The one I use the most is the Facebook Messenger attachment, which I can use to just contact friends and families without needing to change tabs. It just opens right up and I can send messages. A few options that I think will make a lot of people's lives easier are the Force Dark Pages option and the Hot Tabs Killer. The first one does what it says on the tin. It forces dark mode even on pages that don't support dark mode. It's gonna make all that bright white blinding background into a nice dull black, so when you're alone in your room at night, no one can see you. And the Hot Tabs Killer will see exactly which tabs are draining your resources like RAM the most and kill them for you so you don't need to wonder. If you want to try out Opera GX for yourself, use my link in the description to go and download it. I promise it's a game changer. My games would lag and my Discord would glitch out when I was using Google Chrome, to the point where once I switched to Opera GX, I could physically feel the difference. So, can't recommend it enough. It's a great program. I literally have it right here with my script open on it. It's great. And if you don't have a PC, they also have a mobile version of Opera GX specifically for mobile devices, which can be connected to your desktop version to share settings, send files, and do all kinds of great connected stuff. So download Opera GX today, and thank you Opera GX for sponsoring the video. So we're going to go top to bottom today with this character sheet, starting with the hardest to fill block: your character's name. If you have it, you can name them whatever you want. Your player name obviously can go into here. Experience points, if you're tracking them, go right in the experience points block. Ancestry and heritage, if you've played other games like Pathfinder, are also your race and sub-race, as they were called in other games. So we could be like a snow goblin. Goblin is our ancestry, snow goblin is our heritage. Our level over here, for the sake of today, we're going to be level 1, simple as that. Our background, you know backgrounds. You can be a soldier, you can be a bartender, you could be whatever background you chose from your character creation. Class, also pretty obvious. We're going to be a fighter because fighters are easy. You just put whatever class you're playing in there. Size, you're either going to be tiny, small, medium, large, huge, or gargantuan. Let me tell you, 90% of the time you're going to be medium. The other 10 you're going to be small. There are no large ancestries, though there is one tiny ancestry if you play a sprite. Alignment, it's the same 9 you're used to, everything from lawful good to chaotic evil. Just pick the one that fits your character, as well as any traits. Typically these are just going to be like goblin and humanoid, dependent on your ancestry. Your deity is the god you choose to worship, so we're going to worship Caden Kalayan, even though I don't know how to spell his name. He is just the single best god in the Pathfinder pantheon. Fight me. Hero points, these are sort of special metagaming points you get, typically 1 per session. Sometimes the GM will give you more. This is just where you keep track of them. You can use them to re-roll a dice or stabilize while dying. Back over to the left, we have your ability scores, which once again, at least for now, follow your classic 10 is a +0, 12 is a +1, etc., etc. These are going to range from 8 to 18, everything from a -1 to a +4. You can get over 18, but it takes a long time at higher levels. Hey! Like the video and subscribe to the channel! This stat array probably isn't accurate for a level 1 character, I just put random numbers in, I'm just filling things in to show you how they look. A lot of what I'm using here as well is a fancy form fillable sheet that has some automation in it. You can see whenever I put the numbers in, the modifier is filled in automatically along with some other things on the screen like our saving throws and armor class. I will have a link to this sheet in the description. It has been my character sheet of choice. If you're not using something like a virtual tabletop or a character building program, I cannot recommend this one enough if you're the kind of person who really wants to put everything in themselves. Your class DC is going to change depending on your class, but it'll always be based on your key ability score. If we're playing a fighter, let's say our key ability score is strength, we'll select strength, as well as starting in trained proficiency, which will automatically calculate to 17. Here in the middle, we have armor class, which has its own calculation to figure it out. The cap is always the max dexterity bonus of the item you're wearing. So if you're playing, say, plate mail, you have a dex cap of 0. We could be trained in it, and if the plate mail, say, gives +6 to armor class, we would put 6 in the item bonus, leading us to 18. Below that, you can also keep track of everything your character currently has. If we're playing a fighter, that means we're trained in unarmored, trained in light, medium, and heavy armor, and as you level up and get new proficiencies, you can tick the appropriate boxes. Right below that is your shield, which will show you the amount of armor class you get from raising your shield, how much damage your shield reduces if you use the shield block reaction, your shield's max HP, its broken threshold, which is when the shield can no longer function, but it's not fully destroyed, as well as your shield's current HP. Below all of this, we have your saving throws, which if you've ever played a game like this is pretty self-explanatory. If we're a fighter, I believe we start with expert fortitude, expert reflex, and trained in will saves, which will automatically tabulate, but if you need to do it yourself, it is proficiency, plus the appropriate ability modifier is your total saving throw bonus. Here on the right, we have hit points. Hit points are pretty simple to keep track of. You have a max. Below that, you have a current. If you have something like a spell like False Life to give you some temporary hit points, you can keep track of those over here, as well as your dying and wounded conditions. I won't be going over those here, but if dying ever hits 4, you die. If wounded ever hits 4, you also die. So if we are currently unconscious at 0 hit points, we could put dying 1, which might go up or down, and if we get back up, we might be wounded 1. Resistances and immunities. Actually, since we're specifically a snow goblin, we could put 1 cold resistance in here. And if we were something that could potentially be immune to something, that would also go here. Right below that is conditions. This is where you would put something like frightened 1, and maybe even persistent damage would go in there. That's just to keep track of things that are currently affecting you that are typically temporary. We have our movement speed. As a goblin, I believe we would have a 25-foot movement speed. This doesn't change too often unless you take some specific feats. If you have more than one movement type, perhaps if you have a climb speed, you could add that in there as well as its personal speed, just in case it's different. Otherwise, unless stated otherwise, everybody only has a ground speed. Under melee strikes, this one can feel a little bit intimidating for new players, but you're just going to put your weapon or your weapon's name if you're that kind of person, or strength-based. We don't want a rapier. If we have a great sword and we know we have a +4 in strength, so we can put that in our strength bonus. We are trained with it. It's not enchanted, so we don't get an item bonus. We know we have a +7 to our attack rolls. We know it deals 1d10 points of damage +4 from our strength. I believe it is slashing damage. We don't have weapon specialization. This is only important once your character level 7 or higher. Other is if you like homebrew something, maybe it's a special magic item and it has some special ability, it doesn't. And then traits will be entirely dependent on your weapon, and I don't know greatsword traits off the top of my head. So the greatsword only has one trait, and that is versatile piercing, because you can use it for slashing or piercing damage. We would put this here, but if your weapon had any other traits, you can put it right in the trait section, as well as a little bit of a reminder of what that trait does, which can be a little difficult because sometimes weapons can have 4 or more traits, so you might run out of room sometimes. If for some reason we wanted to use a dexterity-based weapon, we can do that. You just ignore the strength here on the attack roll, and then instead we'll just say, we'll use a rapier. And even though we don't have a good dexterity, if we wanted to use our dexterity of -1, we would just put that here, still make it trained, put the 1d8 damage die of the rapier. You would actually still add strength to damage in this case. Only rogues can add dex to damage, so it would still be a +4 from strength. Piercing damage, we have no weapon specialization, no other, and then whatever, rapier traits, because I'm too lazy to look them up. Range strikes work the exact same way. If we have a short bow, we will use our -1 dexterity modifier, give it the trained proficiency. We know it deals 1d6 points of damage. If it has anything special, like maybe special damage or a special type of ammunition, you could put that bonus damage there in special. We would know it does piercing. We don't have weapon specialization. There's nothing other about our short bow, and we do know it has deadly d10 along with whatever else it has. Other is also a great place to put the range increment of your weapon. I believe short bows have a range increment of 60 feet. That's a great place to keep track of how far that might be. And finally, at the bottom here, we have your weapon proficiencies, which if we're a fighter, that means we are expert in simple and martial weapons and trained in all advanced weapons, which means I've actually done all of this wrong, and all of these should be expert, not trained. And that's weapons. Really, once you set them up, they're really sort of set it and forget it, unless you get a new weapon or something outright changes the aspects of your weapon. This is going to stay this way. Even if we level up, what's really nice about this sheet is because your proficiency gains a bonus based on level, if we level up to level 4, all of our weapon bonuses are going to level up accordingly. It all just got that added bonus of increasing my level from 1 to 4. But for the sake of today, we're going to stick with level 1. And over here on the right, we have our skills. Depending on your class, you'll start automatically with Perception. Everyone in the game either starts trained or expert in Perception. And then the rest of the skills, you'll get some from your class. For example, fighters do get trained in Athletics. And the rest of it will be typically your choice, maybe your background. I do think we picked the Soldier background, which also gives trained in Athletics. If you ever do get training in the same skill twice, you can put it in anything else you want, like Medicine. Unlike other games, there are no class skills in Pathfinder 2e, so when you're creating your character, feel free to become trained in whatever skills you want. At the bottom here is languages, pretty self-explanatory. Most people speak Common, you might speak Undercommon, maybe you speak Orc, simple as that. Character creation will tell you how many languages you can speak. That's the first page done, and the second page, once again, while it looks very overwhelming here with all these slots, it's really not. Starting in the top left, we have your ancestry feats and abilities. These are feats and abilities you get from your ancestry. See how that works? Since we're a goblin, we know we get dark vision. And since we picked snow goblin, we know we get cold resistance equal to half our level. And then we would have picked a first level ancestry feat from being a goblin. I'll put goblin lore just because that's the one I can think of off the top of my head. And then if you want to, you can, I think it gives training in stealth and performance. You can remind yourself what the feat does there. There's enough room to add a little bit of something. Otherwise, it's just the same thing. Your 5th, 9th, 13th, and 17th level feat. Skill feats, the only thing you have to worry about at level 1 is your background. Because we picked Soldier, we get whatever skill feat comes with Soldier. So that gives us Intimidating Glare to start with. Which, by the way, this entire time I've been calling it Soldier. It's technically Warrior, but same idea. And then every even level, you get a skill feat, unless you're a rogue who gets twice as many. Same thing with general feats. You don't get any of them until 3rd level, but when you do, you put them right here. On the right here is just where you keep track of every single thing you got at every single level leveling up. For a feature, for a fighter, we know we get Attack of Opportunity at level 1 since we're a fighter. We also get the Shield Block reaction and a first level feat, so maybe we took Combat Grab to go with our Greatsword, which makes no sense in a build. And then you just go like that whenever you level up. 2nd level, you get a new feat, put it there. 3rd level, you get a class feature, put it there, all the way down to level 20. Nice and simple. Bonus feats. Sometimes over the course of a campaign, your GM might be nice and give you free feats, or it might even be written into the game. I've played a campaign where my character got a bonus skill feat that made them better at taming animals. If you ever get a feat that doesn't come from any class feature, ancestry, background, or anything like that, you can put it right in here. I misspelled devilishly. Don't make fun of me, please. I misspelled handsome. Please don't make fun of me. How do you spell devilishly? And then right below that, to finish off the second page, is once again big but easy. It's your inventory. On the left here, you have worn items. These are items that are in your backpack, in your pockets, in a pouch, but are not readily available. You can keep track of how much they weigh if you're the kind of group that uses bulk. Bulk is just a different way to measure weight in Pathfinder 2e. I think it's incredibly sleek and polished, so I recommend it. Readied items over here on the right are a little bit different in that they are easier to acquire. This is a dagger attached to your sheath on the side. This is not in a bag, this is not in a pouch. General rule of thumb, is that a worn item takes 2 actions to get to, a readied item takes 1 action to get to. So if you have a healing potion in your backpack, it's 1 action to take the pack off, 1 action to take the potion out. If you have a potion in a little holster on your waist, it is 1 action to take the potion out of the holster. Simple as that. Readied items are going to be your weapons, probably not your armor. Armor will still count as worn, but anything that you have at a moment's reach. And other items is typically more so for quest items, things that don't really matter where they are. You know, maybe you're carrying a statue of a goddess somewhere. You could also put that in worn items. Other items is almost just extra space for whatever you might need. And then below that, we have the automatic bulk calculation from this character sheet. It even shows you your encumbered and maximum based on your strength score, which is awesome. I'm not going over bulk here today, but it does do it for you on this sheet. And then, of course, your copper, silver, gold, and platinum, which is 10, 10, 10, 10. 10 copper it becomes a silver, 10 silver to a gold, 10 gold to a platinum. Nice and easy, no dirty electrum. Everything on the third page is entirely fluff. It is everything from personality, notes, allies, enemies. If you ever want to write down a very specific action, perhaps you got a class feat that gave you a new action, or you just want to remember exactly how shield block works as a fighter, you can add it here in the actions and activities. So if we put shield block, we know it's a reactions, we'll put an R here. Traits, if you want to keep track of those, 99% of the time they won't matter. There's a spot for the page number if you need a page for where shield block is, which is really, really handy if you need to recheck things. And then the description, which is, reduce damage by shield hardness. Feel free to just use it however you want to word it. You can copy paste it, but if you want to save some space, you can just sort of shorthand a lot of it if that's all you need to remember it. And then same thing with free actions, reactions. I guess I technically should have put shield block down here because it's a reaction, but same difference. And the final page is entirely dedicated to spells, so if you're not a spellcaster, you don't even need to worry about it. Starting in the top left, we have your spell attack roll. If we were using arcane magic and our spell casting ability score was intelligence like a wizard, we would start trained. It would automatically add our key ability score to our proficiency, giving us our spell attack roll. Same idea with our spell DC, which 99% of the time is just your spell attack roll plus 10. Like I said, we pick a tradition. We can pick if we are a prepared caster like a wizard versus a spontaneous caster like a sorcerer. This box doesn't really do anything. It's just helpful for you to keep track of things. And then our spell slots per day is our cantrip level, which at level 1 is just going to be 1. And most of the time, you will probably start with 3 spell slots in a level 1 character, no matter what spellcaster you are typically. And each time you use one, you can just reduce it by 1, keeping track of how many you have left that day. And of course, you can list whatever spells you have. Over here, we have cantrip, so we could have our electric arc, which we do have prepared, which costs 2 actions, and I believe it has somatic and verbal components, and we know it does 1d4 plus mod to 2 targets. Simple as that. And then same thing goes for spells, which we could put, magic missile, 1 to 3 actions, somatic and verbal components, 1d4 plus 1 per action. Easy. Simple as that. Just a great way to keep track of the spells you are using most often. And it's great. It's nice and sleekly designed, so you can keep track of it. Looks like probably 30 spells here. It's fantastic. Innate spells are specifically spells that are not from your class. These are typically from your ancestry or maybe a special background. So if our snow goblin heritage gave us a spell like some do, we would put it here. And finally, the third type of spell, focus spells. These are available to some non-spellcasting classes and most normal spellcasting classes. Everybody starts with 1 focus point except for 1 or 2 classes, and then just like any other spell, you would put it here. Like the wizard has Force Bolt, which is just 1d4 plus 1 damage for 1 action. Done. And that's the Pathfinder character sheet, as well as a sort of overview of just what you'll be looking at on a normal game. A lot of this is just there to keep things clean and available. A lot of the times, you'll just be looking at armor class, saving throws, hit points, and attack rolls, and sometimes skill checks. And if you need a reminder, you can scroll down to your spells and check those out. But overall, the feat page is there to help you keep track of where and why you got everything, which is super nice to have on hand. As someone who often forgets what I got at individual levels, being able to look back and be like, oh, I got combat grab at first level. That's actually really nice to know. It's just a nice little reminder of why you have everything. Otherwise, 90% of the time, you only need to worry about that first page. You could even get away with just using the first page and then using scrap paper for everything else, like your feats, your abilities, your spells, etc. It's a great great character sheet in my opinion. It's just a little bit overwhelming for new players because of how much there is to look at. But I promise if you get used to it, you will start to really enjoy it. Or maybe you'll just use virtual sheets.